Welcome to Inspired Edinburgh. Powerful conversations helping you reconnect with your purpose. I'm Elliot Reeves and my guest today is Lynne McNicoll. Lynne is the co-founder and chair of It's Good to Give, a charity that supports young cancer patients and their families in Scotland. In recognition of your work, you've been awarded the Institute of Fundraising Volunteer Fundraiser of the Year Scotland, the Sir William Y. Darling Award for Good Citizenship, the Local Hero Award for Volunteer Fundraiser of the Year, and then in the Queen's Birthday Honours List in 2015, an OBE for services to children's charities in Scotland. Truly remarkable, Lynne. It's an absolute honour to have you here. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Again, it's amazing to have you here, and I've done a fair bit of research in preparation for this, so I'm really looking forward to finding out a bit more about you and having a good conversation. So it would be brilliant if you could start by, I suppose, setting the scene and telling us a bit about your early years and your background, and I suppose really who Lynne McNicoll is.
Gosh. Well, I hit 60 in December, so my early years, they're a wee while ago. I'm an Edinburgher. I was born just not far from here, actually, down in Cumleybank. Went to Flora Stevenson's, so it's really not too far. And I've grown up in Edinburgh and lived here all my life, and I couldn't imagine living anywhere else.
Really?
Went to school at Marchmont after Flora's. Got my friends, or the same friends that I've always had, and work. I've done all sorts of wee jobs when I was a teenager, from working in Boots to in jewellers' shops. Then I went really into, I tried nursing for a year, but I think I was just too young. And then I just went into doing administration. So I did a bit of admin and personnel, and then that was me. It was just that kind of thing. And then eventually set up my own business just a few years ago, which was doing virtual admin. So I was really embracing the 21st century. Yeah. And I had 2 clients who were in England, and I looked after them. But Fantastic. Then really my I don't know, just amazing moment came when I decided to do fundraising.
Yeah. So I heard originally it was a challenge that somebody set you, and I believe that you hadn't done anything before you turned 49. Is that right?
I hadn't. I mean, I had, when I was a teenager, I think I remember doing a sponsored walk around Inverleith Park. Uh-huh. But I mean, I don't recall ever doing anything else. And my husband had had a heart attack maybe 2 years before 49, around about then. Mm-hmm. And I think I was just so grateful. And also I think the older you get, the more grateful you become. And I certainly was thinking how lucky I was to live in this beautiful city at this time, not in the Victorian area where, I don't think I'd have been the lady of the manor. I think I'd have been downstairs. So I'm really glad that actually I was born now.
Yes.
And so I just thought, right, what can I do? And I decided I would fundraise. And I said to my husband, so the challenge really came from him, because I said, I'm going to raise £5,000 between 49 and 50. That's a nice way to celebrate my 50th, because I didn't need any toiletries or jewellery. I didn't, so I thought, right, I'll do that. And he went, £5,000? You can do better than that, Lynne. Why don't you do £1,000 for each year of your life? And so my £50,000 challenge was born. And I do sometimes say when I'm speaking that in the first 3 months I considered consulting a divorce lawyer because it was awful. I just didn't know where to start. Mm-hmm. And but then I think common sense kicked in, and I went, right, start with an event. And we did one in the house. And that was really good. And I think I just kind of got the bug for it. I quickly agreed to do a trek in the Sahara. Wow. So say it was 2 months into my year, the trek was going to be 8 or 9 months forward. And I thought, yeah, I can do that. And my family laughed their heads off because they just imagined me not doing the trek, but being in a tent. And I thought, I'll show them. And I got to meet people who also wanted to do the same trek, and then we started to. They had to do their own fundraising, and I did my first big event probably in May, and that was at the Sheraton, and we had 200 and something ladies, and it was my Blingo, which has become my signature event. Blingo being bingo and dinner, and for women only, and great fun. And by that time, I was speaking at churches or, women's groups or Rotary clubs, anywhere that would have me, I was happy to go and speak at. And it just was beginning to raise a profile, because the charity I was doing that for was Teenage Cancer Trust. Because I knew that I could do two things. I could raise a reasonable amount of money if I could do the 50 grand, and two, I could raise the profile, because they weren't known at all in the east of Scotland, and so those were the two goals, and I just embraced them with a great deal of enthusiasm, and by my 50th birthday I'd raised 55,000.
That's unbelievable.
I trekked in the Sahara, and I'd learned to speak in public. And I hadn't done that before either. So
how kind of naturally did that come to you in the beginning?
Speaking?
Yeah.
Oh, it was just horrible.
Really?
I can remember doing the first one was at, I was a member of a fitness club, and it was a quiz night I did, and I swear that my knees knocking were louder than my voice. I could hardly stand.
Really?
But I just went, I've got to do this. In order to do what I'm going to do, raise the money, raise the profile, I'm going to have to learn this one. So actually I got in touch with a business in Glasgow who did training for people doing public speaking and speaking on the radio, because at that time the local radio station had there was a moment every day when they did a little bit about public events. So you could go down to the radio station and be recorded, and it was maybe 2 or 3 minutes, but I didn't even know how to do that. So I went through to Glasgow and I had a half-day course with them. And that was really helpful to me. And I got notes as well, and that really stayed with me. There was one book in particular that I really liked. And so I read that book from cover to cover several times, and it really transformed the way I spoke. Am I allowed to tell you the book's name?
Of course.
It was called Drop the Pink Elephant, and it was by Bill McFarlane. Okay. And you actually got a little pink elephant ice cube at the end of the course as well to go with the book, so that you could hold this little pink elephant when you were speaking, and it would remind you of the things. It was your trigger for.
Yeah. And
the book really changed things. So instead of saying things like, not only do we do da-da-da, but also we do this, you turned that around and you said, in addition to doing that, we also do this. Because otherwise you were starting the sentence with not, so it was a negative. Yeah. And it was that kind of thing that the book taught you. Well, I came home, I wrote my first letter, having been on the course. I had written plenty in the months before, and I wrote it to the managing director of Strathmore Mineral Water, because I was looking for sponsorship. And I had changed my letter so that there was no nots, there was no, and also hope wasn't a word you used either. Because before I had said, I'm hoping to raise £50,000.
Yeah.
So I changed my letter and I sent it off and I said, I'm going to raise £50,000. And everything else was just more positive as well. And to my astonishment, the reply I got back said, I love the statement of intent in your letter. And yeah, I'm going to give you the sponsorship of the waters.
Wow.
What? And so that was reinforcement of everything I'd learned. And so I've tried to put that into practice as well, when it comes to speaking, when it comes to writing, just in your mind. So yeah.
That's brilliant. That's really, really good advice. I like that. It's good stuff. And I mean, over the 4 years, I think, after that, you'd raised over £650,000.
Well, not alone, but I was the team leader, if you like, of the community of the East of Scotland. And I had decided I would do it for a year, but then in the August of that year, before I went on my trek, I met a few teenagers who had cancer, who were going through treatment. And you know, I had read about it and I had thought I got it. I didn't. I really didn't. I met these, and there were 3 or 4 of them came to my house because they were using it for filming a little film for the charity. And they came with their parents, and you know, talking to them and their parents they probably changed my life forever, because I had no idea of what the treatments were like, and they were more than happy to talk to you about them. They wanted to talk to you about them. They compared their scars with each other. They talked about all sorts of things that teenagers should not have been talking about. And that really changed it for me. Also, they asked if they could help me fundraise, and so they got involved with events. And so I got to know them more, and I got to listen to their parents, and I began to understand what kind of journey the parents took too. And that was a biggie for me, because I hadn't really considered the parents. I thought it was bad enough that teenagers were going through treatment for cancer, but to find out what parents had to go through as well in watching their teenagers go through cancer, that was a big deal. And so that's when I decided, well, obviously I wasn't going to stop. We needed to get this Teenage Cancer Trust unit in Edinburgh, and I'd continued working with them to do that. And I got to know the families more and more over those 4 years, and we all fundraised together. But yeah, I had the team captain hat on. Yeah,
that's absolutely incredible. And so from that point then, I mean, when, and I suppose to an extent, why did you decide to set up your own organisation? What was kind of the motivation for it?
I think it was because, well, it was quite simply because over those 4 years, I really got to know the families of many people, because, you know, I was on the ground, if you like. If you're in a bigger charity, you sometimes don't get to meet the people that you're helping. I was a volunteer. I was just doing fundraising. I was getting them involved as well. So I got to know them, and they've actually become friends. Many are friends now, you know. So I really began to understand how much it split the family up, because if you've got a child or even a teenager in hospital, you've got one parent staying with the child, and you've got the other parent having to go to work to keep a roof over their heads. If there are other siblings, they've gone to stay with granny or aunties or friends. And if there's a pet, that's somewhere else as well. And I think watching that happen so many times, I really wanted to do something that was for the whole family. And also we achieved our goal. The Teenage Cancer Trust unit was opened in Edinburgh in December 2009. And there was, out of the money that we had raised, there was 400,000 towards the unit that was going to be built at the Western General Hospital. And I thought, Teenage Cancer Trust is really grown in these 4 years. They've got a lot more staff in Scotland. They are better known. Kind of my job here is done. I'd really like to do something that was about volunteering, because by this time I'd realised volunteering had so many benefits. Obviously to the people that you are volunteering for, but definitely for yourself. So I wanted to bring together people who would be of the same mindset, and who we could work together in building a really little charity, but that was local, but that looked after the whole family. And that's really, I'd started to think about that about 6 months before we took the plunge, because I also realised the enormous responsibilities that are placed on you, quite rightly, in setting up a charity. So it took us a long time really to decide, you know, was this the right thing to do? Because you're not going to do it for 6 months.
No,
once you've started it, it's there.
And what were the steps that you took in going about setting it up?
Well, we talked about it for months. We decided on who we wanted to support and the area. So again, you're given plenty of advice on the Oscar website, which is the Office of the Scottish Charity Regulator. And so you know the questions that are coming up. What's the area you're going to look after? Well, we went to Scotland. What's the group that you're going to look after? It was young cancer patients. What age is that going to be? And I had taken it from teenagers right down to children and teenagers because very ironically, a friend of mine, her daughter was diagnosed in the June of 2009 and she was 10. And the cancer she was diagnosed with meant that she was in hospital from June right through till Christmas Eve. So she didn't get out of hospital during that time. And so I would go in and visit the mum, and I could see that's, I think, where it really brought home to me how it affected the parents. Because Dad had just got a job in London, so he was having to commute Tuesday to Friday or Monday to Thursday. And then when he came home, he was going to have to swap, be in the hospital so that Mum could go home and look after the other daughter and the family pet and do all the washing and the ironing. And I think that's where it brought home to me what we wanted to do. So we went to a lawyer, and there's a lawyer, but several lawyers in Edinburgh who are charity lawyers, and this one was, and we said to them, we'll pay you. Please, will you do our constitution and our application so that we get it right? And so we got their advice. So it was important to us that we started off on the right foot. And it took about 3 months before we got our notification that we were now a registered charity. So yeah.
Well, that must have been quite a moment.
It was actually. It was special. We'd already been started in the January building up, talking about it. We'd come up with a name, and the name came from the whole volunteering, and the name came from the fact that I had found it was good to give time, ideas, skills, put them together wisely, and you'll make the money. And we have.
And so what are some of the ways that it's good to give actually help young people and their families?
Well, it started off that what I wanted to do was, because of my friend that I'd seen in hospital, I thought the parents almost become invisible. They're there in the hospitals, but obviously it's the child who's the focus of attention. So I thought I want the parents to know that someone's thinking of them. So I made up parent packs, and originally they were boxes, and we've evolved in time, but they started off with a box, and it had in it things like a book and a notepad and pens. There were little treats in there, like molten brown shower gel and shampoo and conditioner, so things that they needed, but that were nicer than they needed, just so that they knew someone was thinking of them. And I had handed in, I think, 10 to the ward, and I hadn't even got home, and I got a text on my phone from a mum and actually another dad, and they had both said how much that meant to them, that someone had thought about them, and that was really thoughtful. And I thought, right, we're on to something here. It's just letting them know that somebody else is thinking about them. And over the years, what we've done is we've put in feedback forms, and we get the feedback from them, and so we've improved it. So it's now in a clear wash bag. It's, but we've got notepads and stamps, and so that they can write a note to friends. I know usually you do it on your phone, but it's quite nice to do a note card. We put in the stamps so that they don't have to ask somebody to go and get them. They do have to ask somebody to post them, but they don't have to ask someone to do all that. We put in a fan, because if you're in hospital and you're not sick, it's a really hot place to be. We put in book lights, because if they want to continue reading with the children, the lights go out quite early. So there's things like that we do, and so that was one of the first things. Then the dietitian at the Sick Kids asked us if we would do snacks. She said, could we do healthy snacks? So I took her at her word. And I provided like bowls of fruit, and we did oat cakes and cheeses, and I can't remember what else. But I did get a call about 4 weeks in to say, Lynn, is there any chance we could get, Kit Kats? Well, we said healthy.
Yeah.
She went, healthy, that's good, but could we get, these things? So nowadays, and that was, we would go in and we would just put the food in the fridge in the ward. Now what we do is we have a snack team, and we've got, they take the trolley down at 3 o'clock, and they're wearing their It's Good to Give bibs, and they'll go in and they've got things like pancakes and bags of fruit and the cheeses and the oat cakes.
Yeah.
Not as popular as the crisps and the chocolate biscuits. And if it's Easter, there'll be Easter treats, and at Christmas time we take in Christmas Day. I wanted to, and I've done it every year, taking in the Christmas dinner ourselves. It's not hot, it's not like, you and I probably have, but because there's no facilities for them, but we make it as nice as we can, and I'll do a trolley shop in Marks and buy the best, nice sliced meats and salads and Christmas cake and juices that we can, and the nurses on the ward on the day will do what they can to make it special as possible. So we did the snacks, the packs, and then we did workshops, and that was to bring the whole family together because again, the splitting up. So this meant that we could bring the whole family together, siblings too. Siblings can often feel quite left out, and then they'll feel guilty for feeling left out because their brother or sister is very sick. And so we do the workshops, and everybody can come along to that, and everybody's the same. And we've done things like rock climbing. Next one on Saturday is seedlings. So it's at Dobby's Garden Centre, and you will go along and you'll plant up a few plant pots with seedlings, and it's a little bit of gardening there, but you're getting something to take home with you. But we've done cupcake decorating, we've done golf lessons, so there's something for everybody.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Really, really good. I read that you also give parents ironing vouchers.
I forgot about the ironing vouchers. The ironing vouchers started maybe about 3 years ago, because I was on Facebook and I saw one of the mums, because she's a friend of mine, and she'd said, "Oh, wish somebody could come and help me with this pile of ironing in front of me." And not a lot of people were going, "Oh, do this or do that," and I went, "Why are we not doing that?" And so what we do is we find out where they live. We've got a number of ironing businesses that we deal with. We'll go and get a voucher for that place. They will go collect their washing, iron it, and then take it back to them. And it can be folded or it can be hung on hangers. And Shona, who's one of our parent ambassadors and will speak at events, her little girl Evie died actually 4 years ago now. And one of the things that she talks about when she does that is it was actually the small things like the Christmas buffet, because Evie was in hospital at the time, and also the ironing vouchers, and what a difference that made to them to have just our 4 ironing vouchers, and it just because her husband was still at work, and so there was his shirts ironed for him. So they can make a big difference.
Yeah, wow. I
would like them.
Yes, yeah. It's a very sort of entrepreneurial idea, actually. It's good thinking out the box.
Yeah.
So what are some of the ways that you raise money now then?
Well, nowadays we've got such support from the whole community, really, that we've got people who will do treks for us. So where I had done the Sahara and I did Bhutan 10 years ago, and then did raised money, we now organise treks. So we've had people who have done a very extreme one in the Arctic. That was 2 years ago. We've done the Great Wall of China last year. So you get a group of people who are willing to fundraise, and they raise a lot of money. I mean, each of the treks has raised around 100,000 for us, depending on the group size, which is a great way to get income. Then when you get businesses involved, so we're Charity of the Year at a number of businesses, and then they do their own kind of fundraising for you, and I organise events myself. I think last year we had 12 events. It was too many. So I still do Blingo every year, and it's sold out almost sold out for 2018. We do a ball and we do an afternoon tea. So those are our kind of signature events, and Christmas afternoon tea is sold out, it's done. Because people like it, and also because it's really important to me that we make our events good value. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So yeah, sure, ask people to come along and raise money for you, but don't over ask. Yeah. And then you just get people. I'd rather have people coming back year after year than to try and do one big hit at an event. Mm-hmm. Plus, I enjoy doing them. So.
I noticed that you've got patrons, actor Peter Capaldi, who was in Doctor Who, and Olympic medalist Lindsay Sharp. Yes. So how did they get involved? Well,
Peter was, he's a wonderful addition. I haven't met him yet.
Okay.
Obviously, it'd be really good if I can show him the Ripple Retreat this year. Yeah. But he's just so busy. Mm. But it's a kind of sad one because we have a family whose daughter Millie passed away, and they were friends with Peter. Okay. And so they love It's Good to Give. One of their other teenage sons is one of our young ambassadors, and anyway they were friends with Peter, so they said to Peter, look, we really like this charity, is there something you can do to help? And so he said to me, well, what would be a help? And I went, well, if you became a patron of the charity, because it's really good to have kind of an A-list celebrity on board. Yeah. And he's given us a couple of films he's done where we can put them up on the website, and I think it was for our 5th birthday he did a nice one, and then for the ball he's done one to encourage people to spend money, and at the same time he's given us a couple of signed scripts so that we could auction them. So, yeah.
Fantastic.
And Lindsay was how did I meet Lindsay? I met her. I have forgotten how I met Lindsay. But it was really nice to meet her, and as soon as she met us and heard about the charity, and I said, would you consider becoming a patron? She said yes, and she's been fantastic with our young ambassadors, because she's come along and had a chat with them and given them a bit of motivation. So yeah.
Yeah, that's great. So the Ripple Retreat, which you mentioned there, is something that is currently in progress.
Yes.
And that's it's going to be in the Trossachs National Park.
Yes.
And I understand that you've raised, or it will ultimately cost £1 million.
Yes.
Just amazing. So by all means, tell us a bit about what that's going to involve. And,
it actually has got a really nice story to it, because when I said to you about the teenagers that I met 11 years ago, one of them was a girl called Zoe, and Zoe definitely captured a little bit of my heart, and she helped me fundraise. She wanted to do modelling at fashion shows that we did. Zoe she'd been through chemo so many times. She had no hair, she had no eyebrows, no eyelashes, and but was a stunningly beautiful girl. And she said, I don't mind, I'll wear my wig or not, whatever you want me to do. But she actually had 6 wigs. She had different coloured wigs, and she could just I think I'll be blonde today, or I think I'll wear the purple one today. And so we decided to do a fashion shoot for her. And this lovely guy came along and said, I'll do the photos for you. And through him, I think we met a lady who was a makeup artist, and she said, I'll do the makeup. And actually, it was quite a big challenge for her, because she'd never done it before, because actually, and I didn't know this at the time, to put on false eyelashes, it's easier if you've got eyelashes for those false ones to sit on top of. Well, Zoe had none. Mm-hmm. But anyway, somehow or other she managed to do this. She gave Zoe lashes, she gave her eyebrows, and she just enhanced what she already had. Mm-hmm. And we did the fashion shoot, and we did different locations throughout Fountain Bridge area of Edinburgh, and the photos are fabulous. And we showed them, we made them up into a little film actually, and we showed them at events, and Zoe just thought this was fantastic. And she would speak at events too, and you know, she was only 16. I thought she was going to beat it, but she didn't. The cancer returned for a third time, and her body just couldn't take any more chemo and radiotherapy, and she lost her life 5 days before her 18th birthday. She was the first young person. I mean, you know, I had never met anyone under, everybody that had died or funerals I'd been at, they'd been aunties and uncles. You know, they were older. It was sad, but it was okay. This was so not okay. And that really affected me. So just remember Zoe and move forward to It's Good to Give. We knew we wanted to build something. I knew that we couldn't even start looking until we had enough money in the bank. So I think it was maybe about 3 years, we had 300,000 in the bank. I was really quite happy. We said, right, okay, that's probably enough to start looking for land. And we'd been down to East Lothian and we'd had a look at plots of land down there. They just weren't quite the right shape, or they just weren't in the right location. And we just were taken on as a charity that they were going to support by the Scottish Property Awards. And we were told, if you can make a flyer up, this was on the Monday and the awards were on the Thursday. If you can make a flyer up today on the Monday, then we'll put them out on the Thursday in Glasgow. And I was like, design a poster and have it printed by Thursday. Because, you know, I run the charity by myself. Ian's there too, obviously, but it's really just the two of us, but really just me doing the day-to-day stuff. I'm no designer. And I was like, okay. Somehow or other we managed it. The printer said, I'll design you something. And they did. They printed it and they even delivered it to Glasgow. So one flyer went on every table. And I was thinking, oh, this will be good. And then Ian said to me, why don't you put the flyer, which I had in PDF format, why don't you put it onto your next newsletter that you're sending out? Our database was maybe around 1,000 people. So I went, okay, then that's a challenge as well. Okay. So I managed to figure that one out, put it onto the newsletter. So between it going down the tables and then going out on the newsletter, I got a call within a couple of days. And this guy said to me, I see you're looking for land. I've got some land and I'd quite like to talk to you about it. It's in the Trossachs National Park. And I'll be honest, I was a little bit cynical thinking, yeah, sure, okay. Yeah. So I said, well, I'll tell you what, I'll get my husband to call you back. And so I said to Ian, right, there's the number, there's the guy, you go and phone him. So he phoned and he came through, he said, no, we're going up on Saturday and we're going to have a look at it. And I went, okay, that's great. And I still think there was a bit of me going, you can't be given land. Somebody can't just give you land. So we went up to the Trossachs, and I mean, see, as soon as we drove along the road, I was like, I'm already in love with this place. And we drove along, went up to his house, and we met David Ferguson, who is salt to the earth guy, and he said, well, I've just bought this house, it's got 22 acres, I don't need them all, so I'd like to give you, what do you think you need? Well, I don't know. And so he said, well, go and speak to the planners then. So we did, we went and spoke to the Planning Authority, which is in the Trossachs National Park planners, and they said to us, we don't let people build on the shores of a loch. Tell us about your charity. So we told them about the charity, and they went, well, that's pretty special. And, you know, we are trying to promote the park as well as a place of peace and well-being. So, okay, so they thought about it for a long time and they said, we'll consider it, but don't come to us with an ordinary design. It has got to be exceptional. And exceptional was the word used. By chance, in the way that fate sometimes has in store for you, we were introduced to Tony Kettle, and he had designed the Falkirk Wheel, and he was part of the team that did the Scottish Parliament. And he said, okay, I'm quite interested. I'll see what I can do. But he was working in the Middle East, and he said, I'm away there for the next couple of weeks. I'll get back to you. So I don't know what my own expectations were, but I'm not sure that they were that he would come back with a drawing. But he did. He came back and he said, right, I want to meet you, and I've got this drawing. And in fact, I'm pretty sure he actually had done a little design. It was about this size. And he just produced this drawing, and we were like, oh my gosh, really? And we thought, that's surely is exceptional. So we showed the drawing. It was very much a sketch to the planners, and they went, yep, that's the kind of thing we were thinking about. You know, go away and do it. Now, I mean, it took us a long time. I think it was well over a year, maybe longer, before we actually had plans that we could go to planning. But I won't ever forget the day that we went to the planning committee, because there was Ian, Tony and I, and we went to the planning committee, and they really did grill us. There was a lot of questions, because they hadn't allowed anyone to do that before.
Yeah.
But they really did like what the charity was about. They loved the design. We had to make some changes, and we had to move it slightly. And that day we got it, I did cry. And actually, that was the day that the really hard work started, because we knew that we were going to have to raise a lot of money for it.
Yeah, yeah.
But we have, and we're now just 8 weeks away from it being ours.
Jeez, that's absolutely amazing. Okay, and Zoe?
Sorry, I beg your pardon. See,
it's
that's
okay.
terrible.
No, not at all.
The lovely thing is that as David was talking to me, not the first time, I don't think, but he said to me, I just want you to know that my niece was Zoe's best friend.
Oh my God.
I know. And somehow David came into our life at the right time, because, you know, as we set up It's Good to Give, it wouldn't have been the right time. We didn't have any money to start with. And he came along at the right point in time.
Yeah.
It was real fate.
Jeez.
And it took me back to Zoe.
That's
so yes, on our donor window will be Zoe's name.
Oh, that's amazing. Wow.
And that one is kind of...
Yeah. Jeez. And so what's the design like then?
Well, it's...
Okay, yeah, Ripple.
like that. And we called it, its working title was The Ripple Retreat. But I mean, it soon just became, and I went, we just have to call it that. It's just right. And Tony's designed it. It actually, his inspiration was a Kirby grip on his wife's dressing table.
Oh, right.
And
okay.
actually, if you do look at the retreat, you can see where that came from. But obviously, it is also the ripples of the loch and of the hills that are behind the loch. And the colour of the roof is a kind of greeny blue. It's zinc. The roof is made of zinc, but it's been treated this greeny blue colour. And if you're behind it, if you're up the hill behind it and looking down on it, you barely notice it, because it's very much the loch is this kind of greeny blue colour too. It's just beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful.
Wow.
Everyone that sees it, everyone who's seen the pictures and has then come up with me to the site has gone, just the photos don't do it justice, and they don't.
I'll definitely need to see it once it's done.
Oh yes.
100%.
Yes.
So what do you think are some of the main reasons for the amount of success that you've had?
I think probably passion is the big one.
Yeah.
I care very much about what I'm doing. I care about the kids. Sometimes I wish I didn't, because it can hurt so badly. I will never forget the day, that I found out that Zoe had died. And you just think of a 17-year-old girl doing that, or Evie, who was 2 years, 2 months old, or so many other people now that I've got to know. I have been to 15 funerals of under 22-year-olds, and
Mm-hmm.
And I can't change that,
Mm-hmm.
but I can do something that makes life a little bit better during treatment, or to give them this opportunity to have a break. And so why would you not take that chance?
Yeah.
It's a bit of a no-brainer, really. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and I am passionate about it.
Yeah.
And I love fundraising.
Yeah, it's
I love it.
amazing. Yeah. And I mean, obviously, you know, all the awards and recognition that you've received for that as well. I mean, what does that mean to you?
The awards are lovely. Of course they are. I think you'd be foolish to say otherwise,
Mm-hmm.
because it's nice to have your volunteering work recognised. And I think, in a way, I think especially for volunteers, I just want to encourage volunteering so much that it's really nice. Probably one of the nicest ones, and for my dad, the nicest one is the Sir William Y. Darling Award for Good Citizenship, because I suppose that's a reflection for my mum and dad as well, that they did okay in bringing me up. And my dad himself was a volunteer at St Columba's Hospice for something like 25 or more years. So I knew about volunteering. I just hadn't thought of doing it myself until a bit later in life. And I'd love people to start earlier, because it's just fabulous to feel. So yeah, the awards are lovely, of course they are. And then they're helpful to me in my fundraising, because people see that you've been recognised for the work you do. So it just gives you a bit more authority in what you're doing.
Uh-huh. When did you find out, and what were the circumstances around being awarded your OBE?
That was quite fun, because actually I was going through treatment for cancer myself, ironically, and so by that time I was pretty much housebound, because I had not done well with chemo, and so the safest place for me to be was in the house. So I just worked on the charity from my computer in the house, did all I could, arranged people to do various things. And I can't remember if it was a Saturday, it doesn't matter. But anyway, I went to the door to collect the post. My husband and I have a bit of a competition to get the post. It's a bit sad. But you know, I get excited because there might be a cheque in there, or you know, what a prize for a raffle. And so we have a bit of this thing. So I had got to the post first, and I picked up the envelope, and I thought, that's a bit of a special envelope, because it is. The envelope is special.
Is it?
And because it's not a stamp, it's franked, but it's not like your regular franking machine.
Yeah.
And I thought, what's this? I think it might even have said Buckingham Palace.
Oh, wow.
And my first thought was a garden party. And my second thought was, well, I can't go. And so I think Ian was shaving or something. Anyway, I opened this envelope up, and I remember looking at the letter and thinking, what does that say? An OBE? Me? And I can remember going through to the hall and shouting on Ian, and quite a bit frantically, because he was actually he came rushing through thinking something was wrong, and he was going, what is it? And I'm going, can you read that? Read it out to me. And I think I'd lost the ability to read. So it was a bizarre, special morning to read that. But then it said, you can't tell anybody for 6 weeks.
Really?
That was the
wow.
worst thing ever. What?
Yeah.
You've just told me this, and I'm not to tell anybody.
Yeah.
And then you were to phone and reply. I think I probably did belt and braces, because I think you were to send something back, which I did, and then I went, I think I'll phone them as well. I just so that you're sure I do want it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Must be so tempting to go straight to Twitter or Facebook and say,
I'm
guess what's
always
just
on
coming to me?"
social media. It was awful. And actually, one of the nurses in the ward had said to me, like in the 6 week period, and I was coming close to the end of the chemo, and she said something to me like, because they got to know about the Rapport retreat and everything I was doing. And she said to me, it's absolutely ridiculous, some of these celebrities that get awards from the Queen. It's people like you who should be getting it. And I'm like, okay,
yeah.
all right. And actually, maybe it was 2 weeks after that it was in the paper. And the next week I went and she went, I bet you thought I was really silly. And I went, no, I didn't, but I couldn't say anything to you, you know. So yeah, it was a very nice moment. And actually one of the nicest moments was the day it was announced. I had 3 of my team who were coming to the house, and we were sitting outside in the garden and we were discussing something that they were getting involved with for me. And my phone wouldn't stop ringing, because that day was the day that the press, so I had BBC, STV, Radio 4, I think the Times even phoned me, certainly the Evening News did, and they all, and they're going, I'm going, well, I have to tell you because they're about to come out and film me and you're going to be here.
Right.
And so I'd said, well, you have to be quiet until, I think it was 10:30 that night. And the girl from the BBC was lovely. She was really nice. And she'd said, well, we hope we can get it on to the Scottish News, and that'll be at 10:30. That's only if it goes after 10:30. Well, I don't stay up till 10:30, and I certainly didn't when I was sick, but we were sitting there going, right, look. And I've got my iPad ready to go onto Facebook. And it came to 10:30, and I think it was actually Sally Magnuson who was doing the news that night. Anyway, it pinged over and they went, and in the honours list are, and there was 1 or 2 other people, and then there was me, and they'd filmed this wee bit of me, and they talked about me opening the envelope and everything. And I just picked up my iPad, and I didn't need to say a word because all I could see was all these messages pinging in, and I stayed up till about midnight, I think, so it was quite exciting.
Yeah. I mean, I couldn't even imagine what it would be like.
It was exciting.
Amazing. So, I mean, you touched upon it. I know, obviously, you've had your own battles with cancer.
Yeah.
How was that originally diagnosed? And I mean, if you can kind of, I don't know, summarise as to what that battle has kind of been like.
I think ironic is the word that springs to mind. It was Hogmanay, 2014, and for whatever reason, was it because it was the new year? I don't know. I decided while I was in the shower just to do a check, and I thought, uh-oh, that's a lump. Now, I'd had a lump when I was 30, and it turned out to be a fibroadenoma, which is benign, it's fine. They removed it, and that was fine. So I wasn't hugely worried, but having been in a world where cancer's, common in the last 8 years before that, there was a tiny bit of me a little bit scared. But anyway, I spoke to Ian about it. I knew that I could just make an appointment at the doctor, but of course it was Hogmanay, so it meant I couldn't make an appointment until 4th or 5th of January.
Okay.
I didn't actually do it until the 6th, because the 5th of January is the anniversary of my stepson's death, so that's a day that we just block out in the diary to do private family stuff. So I phoned on the 6th, got an appointment on the 8th. Didn't see my own GP, saw one of the other GPs. She was fantastic. She said, pretty sure it's nothing, but let's get you to the breast unit at the Western. And I think it was maybe 3 weeks I waited, went along to the Western, stupidly said to my husband, no, I'm going on my own, because I think, foolishly, I had thought that if he came, that was making it into something more serious than I hoped it was. So I thought if by going by myself, that was kind of meaning it was going to be okay. So But by the end of that day, of course, after many tests that weren't particularly nice, they'd said that they were pretty sure it was cancer.
Jeez.
And I can remember but Ian was with me because I had done a silly thing with the car, and I'd parked it in a 2-hour slot, and it was obvious that I was going to be a lot longer than 2 hours, so I'd phoned him and said, I think I'm going to get a parking ticket because of where I've parked. And he was just waiting for the opening to come down because he'd wanted to be there anyway. And so he said, well, I'll get on a bus, I'll come down and I'll move it. And that's what he did. So he did the moving of the car. So as it turned out, he was with me when they said, you've got cancer, and I was so glad of that. And then they'd said they'd do the surgery quite quickly. There was a cancellation, so I got taken quite quickly. But then, unfortunately, I got told that the cancer cells were also in my lymph nodes, which meant chemo was going to be added on. So originally it was going to be just surgery and radiotherapy. But then when it was outside them, it was going to be chemo as well. And the chemo was the thing I dreaded. And it turns out I was right to dread it.
Oh, yeah.
Because me and chemo were not friends, and I got pretty sick.
Yeah.
But it was 5 months, and although they were some of the longest days I've ever endured, I did endure them. And I always thought about the kids going through it. And I thought, no, I was 58, not nice, but doable. And kids shouldn't have to do that. No. They just shouldn't. So, had the radiotherapy, lost my hair, lost my eyebrows, lost my eyelashes.
Yeah.
I didn't mind my hair. I really minded my eyelashes and my eyebrows.
Really?
It was funny. I hated wearing a wig.
Did you wear a wig? Yeah.
I didn't. I wore it twice. And then I went, do you know what? It's not me. This is me. I am bald. I went to a couple of events, just took the wig off. Apart from anything else, if the choice had been wear the wig and have a face that looked like a Belisha beacon because I was so hot, or not wear it.
Yeah.
And people understood, and that's the great thing about it. So yeah.
And I mean, what were some of the side effects of the treatment that you had?
Sometimes it was the medicine that you got to help you with the side effects. Steroids did not work for me. They made me very tearful, and you could just look at me and I would just burst into tears. I was slowed down so much. Sometimes I could hardly walk from, I'd sit in Ardennes or at my computer, and I would be looking at the screen thinking, I can't even see it. And I certainly couldn't work full time as I had been. I had to, and I was slower. But then there were other days where you were okay. You still didn't want to go anywhere because you were too scared you were going to get infection, because I did. I ended up in the Western for a week on a lot of antibiotic drips to try and find the right antibiotic to deal with it. And that wasn't nice. So No. And my stomach hated them, as a lot of people do. And you get a temperature, and it's horrible.
Yeah. I can't even really imagine what that must be like. How do you think that whole experience changed you or your perspectives?
Oh well, a lot. I mean, you just feel very lucky I'm lucky I got through it. I know people that have gone through treatment and don't make it. There's no guarantees. And I think it just makes you feel really grateful to be here, to wake up in the morning. Small things become really precious things. You learn who your friends are. I got immense support from people who barely knew me, but who wanted to help. We would go and find, pots of soup and food on the doorstep for us, because they knew that. Well, I didn't cook. I mean, Ian took over the cooking from the minute I was sick, and I don't tell him this, but I probably could take it back again, but I kind of like being cooked for. So, but it was, I mean, I didn't care. I didn't care what I ate. He was making little fish things to try and get me to eat stuff, because your food tastes disgusting, because you've got this metallic taste in your mouth all the time. Tea tastes disgusting. All I could manage was, my favourite foods became pan drops and water.
Jeez.
So.
Okay, so on a bit more of, I suppose, a positive, more upbeat note, it would be really good to ask you a few questions around, I suppose, success and purpose, which is something that, I really, really enjoy talking about. So, I mean, for you, what do you think is your why, or what do you feel is your kind of purpose in life?
It's a kind of hard one. I don't know if I feel that I have a purpose. I just know that I like doing what I'm doing. I think it's really important to like whatever it is you're doing, because whether you're here for Evie's 2 and a bit years, or anyone who lives to 100, it's not that long. It's short in the scheme of things, and so you got to be happy in what you're doing. I found my happy, and I think that's, for the time being, kind of my purpose. I try and be as good a daughter as I can be, because I'm very, very lucky in having both my parents still with me. I've got a fabulous husband who's my best friend, so I try and be a good wife. I'm a stepmom, and I'm a gran to my 2 grandsons. I try and be a good friend. I think all of those things, that's my purpose. I don't know.
You're a lovely person, Lynn. You've got that going for you as well. What do you think you would be doing if you weren't doing what you're doing now?
Do you know, I don't know. I think I'd be bored. I was bored before I did it. There was a period where I wasn't stretched enough. I think, now that I think back about it, I don't think I thought it at the time, but looking back now, I think you were bored, and that's why you were trying to think, what will I do that's a little bit different? I'm never bored now, ever. Bored would be something I might aspire to occasionally, and I really like it this way. I do. Yeah. I think, especially having been sick myself, and we've known tragedy with Andrew, my stepson, that I'm just very grateful. I think really lucky to be here and doing stuff I like.
Yeah.
Not everybody gets to do that.
No, it's true. Yeah, gratitude's a powerful emotion.
It is. I do it every single day.
Do you?
For small things, yes I do, yes, absolutely. I don't take a note of it, but I certainly think it, and I often say it on social media, because if I can encourage one other person to think like that earlier than I did, then that's success too, because we really are incredibly lucky. Look at the city we live in.
I know.
At the time we're living in it, no.
Yeah.
The fact that you just wake up in the morning and you're still breathing.
What would you like your legacy to be?
I think I'd really like my legacy to be that I encouraged somebody to start volunteering, to give it a go for whatever charity it was, or for whatever the cause was. If it made them happy and it made them enthusiastic about it, then that would be something I'd be really proud of. to have encouraged someone to do that. I mean, we've got young ambassadors, and that's something that I try to instill in them, is the love of volunteering that I have. So yeah, I think that's what I'd like it to be.
That's great. Yeah, that's a lovely legacy to have. And yeah, that's really good. How do you define success?
I think everybody's different, but for me, it's being happy. I think if you're happy, it's so much more important than material stuff. Because if you've got the material stuff and you're not happy, waste of time. So I think for me, it would be happy, and I am.
Yeah, you definitely seem it. It's great. Who or what inspires you? Well,
probably around the same time as I was thinking about fundraising, I remember reading a story in a magazine about a lady called Jane Tomlinson. And Jane had had cancer, I think for a few years by that time. Anyway, she then went on to write or co-write 3 books with her husband. And what she achieved was unbelievable. I think she raised over £1 million. But the way she did it was, I think, I wouldn't want to say for sure, but I'm pretty sure that the cancer went into her bones. I can't remember where it started, but it went into her bones. So she endured a lot of pain, and pain management was a really big deal to her. But this woman went on and did an Ironman challenge, maybe even more than one, but she started with like a marathon. You'll never hear that about me. She started with, I'm sure she started with a marathon, and then she went on and did triathlons, but she finally did an Ironman challenge. And I tell you what, I have her 3 books. And occasionally we'll dip into them again, because that was one incredible woman. But that's someone I never met. On a day-to-day basis, it's the parents who have done it for me, who definitely inspire me and make me think, what you are doing is remarkable, to keep going day after day, watching your child endure treatments that I now know how horrible they are.
Yeah.
And you can't do anything about it except watch them. You can love them, you can hold their hands, but you can't take it away from them. And you've just got to sit there and watch it. And the strength I've seen in so many parents over the years blows me away.
Yeah, that's so powerful. Nobody should have to go through that.
Nope. And in some cases, they haven't made it, so they've then got to go through what I just can't imagine in losing your child.
What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Well, I suppose a lot of it was in the Drop the Pink Elephant. That was probably one of the, it's not a piece of advice, but it was a tool that certainly changed the way I will speak and write. So it was a really good one, that one, in the not using negatives, and being really positive about your statement of intent. But the other one is a big deal is about failing, and that really the best way to learn is to fail first. And I think that people often see failing at something as a bad thing, and I never have.
No.
Because I've done loads of events that I wouldn't necessarily tell you about, because you know what, they flopped. They were at the wrong time perhaps, that didn't mean that I was going to literally say I'll never do that again. I have said that once or twice, but it doesn't necessarily mean it. It means that it was at the wrong moment in time. Maybe if we did it now, it would be better. It was a great idea, but it didn't work then. Try it again later. Or it just didn't work and you learned from it. Because I've done loads of stuff that haven't worked, or that, you know, in the normal sense would say was a failure.
Uh-huh.
No, I don't see it like that. I learned from it. And that comes from my dad.
Okay. That's a brilliant way to look at things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's great. If you had the opportunity to speak to the 20-year-old you, what would you say?
Take advantage of as much as you can. Make the most of every day. Now, I don't mean that as in, you know, be Mother Teresa.
Mm-hmm.
Just make the most of it. Whatever it is you're doing, make the most of it. If it's, you know, working in a shop, then, as I did when I worked in Boots the Chemist, and I loved it. Make the most of whatever it is you're doing, you know, just take advantage of the things that you can learn.
Mm-hmm.
I think when you're young, you just think you've got all the time in the world, and
Yeah.
you know what, we don't.
Mm.
Travel, if that's your thing. It never was mine particularly, so I didn't miss out on the gap year thing. But if you've got that opportunity and that's what you think you want to do, go do it.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'd probably say to myself not to be so afraid. I think I was afraid of a lot of things. Be bolder. I think. Yeah, I think I would have said to myself to be bolder. I was a bit of a timid 20-year-old.
Were you?
Yeah, I was.
I couldn't imagine that, Lynn.
No, I was. I was like, oh no, I can't do that. Give it a go.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's about that failing. A fear of failure.
Yeah.
Lose that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, yeah. And just love your life. I have a wall in the house. We have a wall in the house, which has got quotes on it from Winnie the Pooh, who I love.
Yeah.
Very wise person was Winnie the Pooh. So we've got quotes on the wall from Winnie the Pooh, and one of my favourite ones is, volunteers don't get paid not because they're worthless, but because they're priceless.
Oh, that's so good.
So I've got that kind of thing. But I've also got the Holsty Manifesto, and it's fantastic. And I look at that every time I go past it. It's in my utility room, so it's not in the most ideal spot, but I'm in there a lot.
Yeah.
And the Holsty Manifesto is fantastic, and it just basically says that. So, you know, just love your life. And I do.
That's such a fantastic answer. That's brilliant. A wall of quotes. I need to get
I love
myself
it.
one of those.
Oh, definitely. Definitely.
Yeah. Brilliant. Okay, this is the final question, and I'm really quite excited about what you might say in response to this. If you could change anything in the world, what would it be and why?
If I change anything in the world?
Mm-hmm.
If it was a big thing, I suppose it would be that it would be about health, wouldn't it? I think having seen children going through things like cancer, being through it myself, it would be the change I'd like to see, is that there would be that cure for cancer. And for obvious reasons, because the kids are, it's bad enough in adults, but I think you kind of have to take a bit of responsibility too, in that there may have been factors that you have done. I was overweight. That's a factor in breast cancer. Don't know. Might just have been that it was going to get me anyway. Kids haven't done any of those things, you know, when they just haven't. So I suppose it would be really nice to see a cure for cancer.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I'm sure there's probably about 50 million things you could wish for a change, but I think if you're wanting a big one, that would be it.
Yeah, that would be huge. Yeah.
And it'll come one day. Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. Lynne, I've had so much fun speaking with you. It's been amazing. Your honesty and your candour, I just appreciate so much. It's been just a brilliant conversation. I've absolutely loved it. And so, thank you for everything. Thank you for your time.
Oh, thank you for having me.
You're absolutely welcome. And the work that you're doing, I think, is absolutely phenomenal. And I can't wait to see the Ripple Retreat once it's finished.
I'll be very proud to show it to you.
Fantastic. Lynne, thank you so much.
Thanks.
Cheers.